Hi, and welcome to the post-screening dialogue for Thus Have I Seen Buddhist Film Festival. This is the post-screening dialogue for Come and See. And we are very, very honored to have with us the director for the film, Kai Nottapon, who has taken time to join us today for this post-screening dialogue. Hello, Kai. Welcome. Would you like to invite you to say a few words?
So first of all, thank you very much for everyone to come and watch this film. It's an honor for me and for our team. And this is honestly, it's my first feature documentary, which finished, which I made since 2016, and it took a while until it finished like fully and got distributed in this year. So it's a long journey, and thank you again for everyone for joining this experience with us.
Thank you, Kai. Like you mentioned, that the film took a while. So before we go into some of the challenges you have faced filming this, since it's very interesting to know that you have began filming in 2016, maybe you'd like to let us know what inspired you to make Come and See.
Okay. The internet connection, it's a bit on and off sometimes, so apologize if I have some delays. Okay.
The question, or did you manage to?
No, I got the question.
Okay.
So what inspired me is so the temple Dhammakaya or Dhammakaya in our society, it's always for me, from my first memory, it's always there since I was like really young. But I have no knowledge about it until when I was in 9th grade. One of my friends went there for ordination as a young monk, as a novice monk, sorry. And the place is really out of the world. It's like it's a different kind of temple and really odd for us as a Buddhist, for the consider like the mainstream Buddhism in Thailand, which the temple have this all, kind of like a Thai art structure and architecture and everything, but Dhammakaya is like, it's this vast space with all this concrete structure, and the ordination was so huge with like thousands of novice monks, like they ordained together in one event, and people were smiling, and I was like, oh, this is weird in a way. And that's the only memory that I have, like a direct experience, like during the time. But then and then flash forward until 2015, when I was in doing master degree in New York, doing masters in documentary, and there's a news about this temple coming up again about the money laundering. The abbot was accused of money laundering, and the police tried to break into the temple. And 2016, there's an incident that some of you might see in the film or the trailer, that hundreds and thousands of followers of Dhammakaya like doing meditation to block the police from entering the temple. And that really strikes me like, oh, how come the situation it's becoming like this? What leads everything towards this incident? And that really makes me curious about it. And besides that, like Dhammakaya has this the position of Dhammakaya in the society. People consider it as a kind of brainwash cult, because this is like, quote unquote, because like of there's a huge amount of donation happens every like donation event. They raise money like really aggressively in some people's like opinion, and they were accused of like tweaking the Buddhist teaching to like make people donate excessively. And that's all accusation makes me wondering like why the people still there, the temple still there, and lots of people still devoted and even meditate to block the police. And that's why I start to want to make this film.
Right, it's very interesting, the part about having hundreds of thousands of devotees still blocking the police despite
Yeah.
what has happened. Do you see that you did mention that you saw that yourself, right?
Yeah, actually it's a huge news. It's a huge headline in Thailand, and also in the world. It's in the international news as well. And the incident happened. I saw it in the news actually, and that it was June 16th, the day that the police tried to get into the temple, but the followers tried to block it. But the conflict, it's like it takes time for like a couple of months until the conflict escalated into like some, they have some, what is that word, um, like facing and some pushing.
Right. So you see that, and there's this group of very strong devotees that are defending them, and then you also have people who know that some things are going on, and on that, knowing that there's two groups of people. When you're making the film, was it difficult to find the right people to interview, for that perspective? Were you facing any challenges in finding interviewees, particularly to film this, because knowing that they do have a lot of supporters, and you have to find a balance, right?
Yeah.
Did you face any challenges on that front?
Yeah, it's really stressful, I would say. Honestly, like making this film, since this is like a thesis film, to be honest. Like so I don't have, I have only a few crew members that I'm asking my friends for help from time to time, but more than 80% to 90%, like I'm almost like working alone. Yeah. And also like in terms of like picking interviews or balancing in a way, since the conflict is so huge, which the one side we have this really huge temple with lots of supporters, another side is the military government and people who some people who like supports the military or against the temple. And so actually, in the beginning, I try just to understand the temple side, since like I'm Thai and I want to understand like the so-called cult in the country. So I just try to gain access from the temple like directly. And the firstly I was imagining like the film is going to be just only the temple, because that's what I'm curious about, and I already know the conflict. So I asked temple, and the temple kind of they sent like a facilitator to help me kind of, in a way, help me facilitate the filming and help pick the people to represent their temple, which is, at first it cost me a question, that I have doubt that, oh, should I follow them, should I accept their selection or not. But consider for the circumstance that happened that time, it's very vulnerable situation, since the media try to attack the temple very much, the mainstream media, and also the temple try to fight back with their own like kind of news stories and propaganda. I know that someone called it. So and I'm trying to be honest with the temple, that I want to portray what the temple really is, and by doing that, I consider that the people they select, I think that they really have trust and of what they believe, and trust that these people would best represent what the temple really is. So I accept that. It's fair enough to like, okay, show me your best, whatever representation. Yeah, so that's the temple side. And then after I start filming and start editing some part of the film, and have some feedbacks with my classmates and professors. The problem is, foreigners don't really understand the conflict and what's happening at the position of this temple. Like, what is the difference between this temple and the ordinary mainstream Buddhism? So I have to add the opposite side. It's the people who are against the temple, which is like the ex monk, the ex members, and the politicians that against temple and other people. So that becomes like two sides now, A and B. But after this film's evolving more and delve deep into the conflict, I think I need a third opinion, like the third eye, that could clarify and articulate the meaning of this conflict, what is relevant to the society, the Thai society. So I need to add like the point of view of the scholars, Buddhist scholars, and in terms of history as well. Yeah, so that makes this kind of balance. Not, I would say it's like shifting the perspective more than try to balancing between team A and B. I kind of start with A and B, and then when I put in the third eye view, the third perspective, the outsider, it makes it more like a bird eye view to look it from above and see it as a questioning the rule of the game more than just try to balancing who's right and wrong. You know what I mean? Yeah, and that's what I learned along the process.
So in all that, you are essentially presenting different perspective from different individuals. What about yourself? Did it cross your mind that you want to perhaps put in your own beliefs, or you kind of allow the film to unfold as it is based on the people involved, the people who are looking at this from the inside, from the outside? What about your own perspective? Did you intentionally include it or excluded your own point of view?
Good question. I think making this film, it's a huge learning process for me in terms of what my belief is and what do I take from Buddhism, which I grew up as a Buddhist people, and also actually my parents are also like they teach meditation, like they kind of like more into really like Buddhist. But the thing that I learned from this conflict is I think actually I should tell this story. There's one day that I have a chance to talk to one of the high rank monk of the temple, of the Dhammakaya temple, and I asked, he's a really smart monk, and I asked him like, what's your opinion about the donation thing, because like this is a really huge problem of your temple, and what you gonna argue with that? Because people like they sell their homes, they lost all their money to the temple, they they wholeheartedly believe that they want to do this donation. And the monk answering me that they don't think anything is wrong. He don't think that anything is wrong, because like this temple teaching people to follow the path of the Buddha. And the story of the Buddha is like he donates like everything. He donates even his own son in his past lives. That's what we learned in the history of Buddhism. And he said like, yeah, there's nothing wrong, because like everyone can donate like all their savings. It's fine. And I think that's the problem for me. I mean, it's not his problem, but it's my problem, that if we take the problem is highlighting the story and use that story to kind of like to invite people to donate. And I think the story is the problem for me. So for me personally, I don't take any kind of story to myself, like in terms of religion. I only take religion as a philosophy, because the storytelling, you can do it whatever you want with it, and it doesn't really mean anything to me. It might relevant in one period of time, in the past times or whatever, in a different context, different circumstances, but in this modern world nowadays, this day, I don't think we can use that. And yeah, you know what I mean.
Indeed, I think putting it into a modern day perspective, like you mentioned, people don't tend to go into that kind of extreme. Like you can be a very deep believer, but to have that kind of action of giving everything you have, it seems quite extreme, and it if, it makes one wonder, like, you know, how are you going to then manage your own life if it's all
Yeah,
about the temple, and where does that bring you? And it does come across as it makes people wonder whether this is something of a cult, which
yeah,
essentially many people think that it is, and believe
yeah.
so. So from that, in the entire film, for both Buddhists and non-Buddhists, um, would there be any takeaways that you want both groups of people to take away from this movie? Like, as a Buddhist, obviously you would be familiar with the Buddhist precepts and all that. And it could be, I'm being biased here from the perspective of a Buddhist.
Yeah.
It would seem like it's a little bit easier to have certain takeaways, almost instantaneous. You can see it quite clearly. But for perhaps some audiences who are non-Buddhist, what is the message that you want them to take away from this film, particularly from a Buddhist perspective, if you have?
It's a good question. Um, I would say normally when I make films, like any kind of films, I never expect like what is the takeaway for anyone. I mean, it depends. It depends on how you're gonna take away with this incident that I just show it to you. And especially for this film, it's really tricky to answer this question since it's what I'm trying to do is I just kind of like throw this story to the table, and the feedbacks that I received from this film is really like various. It depends on like who's watching it. So I don't really try to pin down. But I would say like personally, like what's this takeaway that I kind of try to emphasize at the end. But it's not really means that the whole story is about this, but this is just the ending note that I want to emphasize. There's an incident that in the very end, this is spoiler alert, which is it doesn't really make any difference if you watch the film or not. But yeah, the very end of the film. There's a title card that wrote there's two people that dies from this incident, the conflict. One is a woman who got an asthma attack in the temple, and she died because of the police blockade of the, you know, people can't, the ambulance can't get in time. They can't save her, so she died, and the police denied the claim that they didn't block anything. The second person who died is a man who commits suicide to protest the government that they kind of restrict the access to the temple, and the temple denied that he is a follower. So for me, from this incident is like, you know, whatever the huge conflict or between two religions, three religions, or any kind of party in the society that has conflict, everything it's up to the individual. I mean, especially religion is like a personal experience that you have by any methods that you believe in, anything, any temple, any sect or anything. It's just you and you alone in this world, and in this world, try to making sense of it. And there's one shot that I really like in this film that I put it in twice, like in the film. If someone's like noticed, there's a one shot that is a really wide shot that have this small, a tiny like old woman who's like praying in the vast space of the temple, just only her sitting there. So I put it at the very end after that title card, just to emphasize the feeling of the loneliness of us as a human being fighting and really try to make sense of the world like alone. Yeah, I think that's the thing that the note that I would end.
So it is meant to also make people think, whatever thoughts that comes about is really up to the individual.
Yeah.
People with different experiences, they would have different takeaways anyway. So
Right.
you would have screened the film in your home country, Thailand, I suppose. Like, can you share what was the reception from the home audience so far? Since
The
it
reaction?
happened, the reaction, the reception and the reaction,
Reception. Okay.
yeah, because it's very close to their heart,
Right.
something that
Yeah.
happened in their country, and I
Yeah.
think they feel quite deeply in for this incident. Like, would you know how was it being received, the film, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the reaction and all that?
Well, first of all, I never imagined to screen it widely in my home country at all. Like when I first finished the film, when I start filming it, I have no idea if I gonna screen it anywhere in my country, because like the topic is really sensitive. Thailand is like a Buddhist country, and no one dare to criticize it. Like, yeah, so. So after I finished the film, I kind of put it in the shelf, just send it to festivals, and screen it only in art events or classrooms and stuff. but but these past 2 years, the politic landscapes in the country really changed. The new generation comes up and raise a lot of awareness, and really they have liberal thinking and criticize everything in the country. So I kind of like have this feeling that, oh, they might, maybe it's time to start debating about religion. Maybe they're ready now. So yeah, so there's an incident that I happen to have a chance to distribute it nationwide, and the reception is much more like I couldn't imagine that it's huge. Like a lot of people watching it. Even there's a really small numbers of theaters across the country screening it. I think it's like it 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 got like the most like box office comparing to the number of the cinema they have. So it's the most revenue in time, and the comments online, it's really critical in terms of the topics, not into the film that much, but into the topics. And yeah, I couldn't ask for more, I would say. um there's interesting feedbacks from both sides, like people who hates the temple, like not like outsiders who hates the temple. They watch it and they see it as a really like a brainwashing in incidents in the film, like many scenes and stuff. And they some people don't empathize with the temple at all after watching the film. And on the other hand, like many people also empathize with the temple and questioning how the society should handle different beliefs, how the government should handle this, not by just like impose all the beliefs like into the citizens. We should have freedom of choice to pick our own beliefs. We should separate the religion out from the what should I say, the education system and the society, and make it like a free market of beliefs, I would say. And the temple side, they really love the film. I would say that's really surprised me in the beginning. I have no idea what they're gonna react, because like me as an outsider, sometimes I film some scenes and I feel like, oh, this is something really odd for me. Yeah, but they see it as a as as a battle for their lives, fighting against the injustice by the military, and also their practice is meaningful for them. So it's interesting, and many people see it as an eye opening, because like most of the rumors come out from its temple. Most of the people never have a chance to experience or see it by themselves. So yeah, that's what's the reception be like, I would say.
Sounds really good, and I'm very happy for you. And thank you so much for sharing all that, because it gives audiences, especially those that have watched the film, a lot more deeper in understanding about where you're coming from when you're making the film. And for those who have not seen it, I personally think that there are moments inside where, stories aside, you have very beautiful colors. Some moments are very intense. I thought the gold color was very breathtaking when it came on. It was like, wow, that moment was very, very intense. So for people who are into that kind of thing, you do have the opportunity to see a very beautifully made film. So thank you so much for bringing us all that. And before we end the
Yep.
session, Kai, would you have anything else to add, or things that I might not have covered, things that you want to share with our audience?
Let's see. What else? I'm also always like wonder like what's the feedback, you know, for people who's not Thai. I mean, I think from my experience, like screening this film for a couple of people outside the country, it always fascinated me to listen to how people interpret and apply this film to their own experience in each country. For example, like I screened it in New York, and people kind of relates to it by comparing Dhammakaya with Mormonism or Scientology, which is a new religion in America, and 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 discussing about like the power relation between the society and the belief and what faith means to us as a human being. Yeah, so if it's possible, I would wonder like, you know, how people here in this festival would react to this film, and I would love to hear, have a chance. So you know, lastly, I would say please, thank you again for, you know, spend your time watching and have this experience with us along this film. Yeah, thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you so much for being with us once again, Kai. Thank you for taking time to do this interview. And to our audience, for those who have not yet bought your ticket, you can do so at the SISTIC website. And we look forward to having you at the festival. And thank you so much for your support. And we look forward to seeing you at the next dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.